why it's not working. Can you reinstall the camera or re-put the camera?
Oh, I'm doing audio. Hold on.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense. Hi people, sorry about that. We're having a little bit of a technical glitch here. Don't know what's going on. It just went all psychedelic on us. We were going through our Beatles phase, one might say. Going through our late 67, 68. Is it still black? Why is it black? In LED. No, it was doing that before.
Are you recording?
Uh-huh.
We might have to just restart the computer.
Well, we can't drop it again. We'll have to go to
Yeah,
this.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I don't know why.
Hi, everybody. We're trying to figure out what's going on. I apologize. I don't know why our camera is acting up. It was fine for Mass this morning. We've never had this problem until I started messing with the hue. It was weird. I don't know why that would be.
It shouldn't do anything. How does this frame look? Well, how does the coloring look right now?
Well, it does not look good at the moment, but that's better. Yep.
We need more light on the face.
All right. And now let's lower it a little bit. Just the little thing on the camera moves too.
Oh,
Well, hello and welcome to the chat. We are having some technical difficulties. Our main camera is not working, so we are going to do the whole show on the ash cam, it looks like.
It's okay.
Now we're a little too low, I think.
Okay.
Does that look good?
Fine.
Hello, everybody. Oh, dear. All right, Mom, are you back? Sorry about that.
So the problems, we don't know exactly what's happening there.
No, we do not. We do not, and we don't want to stop the stream again. Maybe I can move that brightness down a little bit more.
You might raise the saturation a little bit.
Raise saturation.
Just a tad bit. We're getting pretty cool colors.
Cool.
That'll be a little better, yeah.
All right. We did learn how to do sliders. Actually, Father Ashmore learned it.
I just learned that was capability. That's
Cool.
yeah.
So, welcome to the Fireside Chat. We're getting a late start. Sorry about that. And some of it was within our control, and some of it is without our control. So, welcome. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have stopped at Scooters, but that only maybe delayed us by 2 minutes or so. But it also prevented us from having to brew up a whole another pot of coffee. So
Right.
I think it was about equidistant there of the time needed.
So this morning, I noticed my dad is on. I need an explanation, Dad. So tell me, I went if you listen to the background, you'll hear a slight chirp every now and then.
Uh-huh.
It is not a bird.
Birds aren't
Birds
real.
aren't real, right? Exactly. It is not a bird. You will notice it's a fire alarm, a fire detector, a smoke detector. It's chirping every 35, 40 seconds, something like that.
It has
Maybe a
been an
minute.
exciting morning.
Uh-huh.
Let me tell you.
And the confusing thing about this is when I went to go replace the battery, I can't find the battery. I took the whole casing off, and there is no battery. So I'm confused. If you'd like to explain to me why there's no battery in my smoke detector and why it's now chirping at me without being able to find a battery, I would really appreciate that.
Yeah. So we got a chirp going on. It's got beep about every minute or 2 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So that is not particularly fun. So
Well, we got what we got.
We got
I'm
what
just
we got.
Confused
It's gonna
as
be a
to where
fun
the
Monday.
battery went. It's if it was like hardwired, it shouldn't be chirping.
yeah.
I don't know.
I have no
If you
idea.
can explain that to me, I'd appreciate it.
Yeah. So it says it is. Is it? Jody says it's hardwired. I think it. Well, we don't know. We can't
Well,
figure
if
it out.
it's hardwired, why is it chirping? What is it chirping at us for?
Right.
I'm not on fire.
Nope.
Mhm.
Nope. So yeah, that is something that we got going on. Let me quick switch over again. We're on the not as good camera. If you say, boy, the quality is really suffering here on the Fireside Chat, you would be correct. We've got our camera set up here, and I was messing with the settings for the other camera, and the other camera started acting up. So I don't know. So the Ash Cam is the cam of the day. I'd like to go over to we do have the O camera still here, so I will switch over to my O camera real quick and say hello to my nieces. Hello there, Rachel. Hello there, Rosalie. Hello there, Laura. How are you doing? I hear that you're with Grandma right now. I went over to Grandma's house yesterday, and to wish her Happy Mother's Day. So I hope you were good to your mom yesterday. And Mom made me. It's backwards how it normally works. Remember how I was talking about my crochet things last week, and I only had it in villains. So my mom made me a Yoda. So isn't that cute? It's a crochet Yoda. So normally, I think I'm supposed to give gifts to my mom, but it was backwards. And so she gave me this beautiful little crochet Yoda. So I'm very excited that he can join the crochet friends of Darth Vader, Boba Fett, and the Stormtrooper. So there it is. Beautiful handiwork by my mom. Got that for Mother's Day. So, all right, we'll go back to the normal camera. Well, the abnormal camera.
Right. So Debbie, I appreciate that. I may not be able to just. I may not. This particular one know where the battery is, but
I know how to replace batteries in this, and I just don't know where it is in this one. It's very strange.
Yeah.
Anyways,
We tried to, but I think
I tried to pull something off of it too, and I thought I was going to pull it through the ceiling. Also, it's located above our stairs, which is a great design choice. So, which I understand because that's where the smoke would go, but you could have put it even like a foot before and not threatened my life.
that's right. And there's another smoke detector right the other way. So this is the first time that since I've been here, so the first time in 2 years that has acted up. So,
Oh well.
but fortunately, it didn't start going off in the middle of the night. So that can count our blessings. So
Right.
I didn't notice it till this morning about 7 o'clock or so. So
Mhm.
I don't think it was going off in the middle of the night. And if it did, I didn't hear it. So yeah, but if it goes off all day, that
We'll deal with it.
I'll have to deal with that. So hey, our house says it's 61 degrees in here. It's a little chilly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but is it supposed to warm up? Do you know?
I presume so. I don't know.
I mean, sometime between now and August, I think, yes, it's
Yeah.
going to. Well, hey, talk to us about what is. There it is. There's a lead-in. We got to do it here. Well, tell us about your app over there.
Oh yes, you're far more excited about this than
I am. Well, you were excited about it.
Well, yeah, but I don't know if it's. I mean, we got like 30 seconds of material here. I've got a weather app called Carrot Plus, I think it is, just Carrot, and it's a snarky weather app. So every time I open it up, it insults me somehow.
Yeah.
And says things like, today's weather message is paid for by the Fossil Fuels Are Awesome Super PAC. That's his little snarky message today.
What else? What other kind of snarky message have you gotten from what it's called? Carrot.
It's called Carrot. Yeah, it says things such as, I caused it to rain today because I hate you. That was one of my personal ones. My personal favorites. One of the things is it said. I don't know. I'll be. Yeah. So
Okay.
it just says snarky things every single time.
Yeah, Carrot.
I'm
And
amused by
he
it.
sometimes shares it with me, and I think it's pretty darn cute
Uh-huh.
because I am not above snarkiness, as people know. It's a 10-year battery. You need to replace the entire smoke detector.
Oh, really?
Okay. There you go. There it is.
Who said? Who knows that?
Willard Ashmore,
Oh my.
your dad.
Oh man, the 10-year battery. That would explain that because I'm looking at it and there's no battery up there. It's very strange.
Yeah. Well, here's something. So I said your dad.
Mhm.
So I took Spanish in high school. I also took it in 6th grade. And what I almost said is I said your dad always tells the truth. And when we were learning Spanish, we were trying to come up with things to remember different words and phrases and whatever, and stupid little things to remember, like perder murder then you lose.
Murder. Okay.
I've remembered that since my
What does it
freshman year.
mean?
Well, what is perder?
Perder. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Perder. If you look at it, say it anglified.
Yeah,
perder,
perder,
murder, then you lose. So now
Okay.
I've always remembered that perder means to lose something.
Okay.
And I've always remembered that verdad, if you put a little extra thing down on the V, it's your dad always tells the truth. So
Wow.
your dad, verdad,
Verdad.
always tells the truth. So, so I've
Padre
used that.
siempre dice la verdad.
I've been
It's mucho
saving
más
that
fácil.
material for how many years? That's a 30-year-old thing that's been locked into my brain since my
Wow,
freshman year
that's
of high
impressive.
school. Yeah, perder, murder, then you lose, and your dad always tells the truth. I remember those two particularly.
That's
from
interesting. Well, I have. When I learned Greek, you have to memorize the 6 principal parts of every verb in Greek, because every verb can change in like 40 or 50 different ways in Greek, and there's 6 principal parts to it. I still remember the endings of it being so sa ka mai the, because it was so I saw the ka mai, and the person faints because they're excited because they got a car. Isn't that
see,
stupid?
yeah, there you go. But
Sa ka mai the.
you remember those things
Exactly. So I know that theta at the end means aorist passive. It's exciting.
That is exciting.
It's so exciting.
We did a skit, and we were talking about. We won't bring that up again. But talking about sometimes skits are funnier to people in high school.
Yeah.
Like they are. They seem so funny when you're like to the people that are doing the skit or whatever, but they're less funny to
Oh, certainly.
everybody else. But we had this skit, or like I think it was like a one act that we wrote in high school, and it was funnier to us than anybody else. But there was this like cult that had developed up, and this it's just so stupid, but I'll just say it anyway because I'm already in it. But it was so they had this cult, and they were chanting this this word, this phrase that they said over and over again, Alaba Kamasab. Alaba Kamasab.
Alabakamasab.
Alaba Kamasab. It kind of rolls off
It
the.
does.
But it stood for. And this is a deep cut. This is for old watchers of Sesame Street,
Oh.
where this little boy or girl, I forget, it was a little cartoon thing that they went over and over again. A loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter. That this little kid had to go to the grocery store, and his mom or her mom or whatever said, I need you to go to the grocery store, and I need you to remember to bring a loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter. And so we kept on going over and over again. A loaf of bread, a container of milk, a stick. And so that's the first letters of all those things. It's a laba kamasab. A loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter. A laba kamasab.
We're really hitting out of the park.
You never know what you're going to get on the Fireside Chat. Does anybody else remember that little cartoon where the little kid goes, a loaf of bread, a container of milk, and a stick of butter? If you have not seen it, I bet you can look it up on YouTube and find that little thing. So I think I saw it recently because I was trying to look that up. But a lava kamasab. So there you go. So how y'all doing? We are in our... We have been semi-liberated. We had Mass this morning.
This is
so
true.
First time we had Mass.
So what do we feel like? We feel like they Is this the troops coming into Africa at this point, and we can see them coming in the distance? They're about to come into Italy. Is this the European invasion? Are we coming over the? Are we storming Normandy here? What are we doing? I'm curious.
I don't
Give
know.
me the historical context.
I'm not following the analogy at all.
Don't you see? I mean, you said we're being liberated.
Oh, I see.
I follow you.
Now.
You see, here's the thing. I did a little bit of improv in high school, and so I have the rule. When you do improv, you always, the main rule is never say no.
Right.
So if somebody says something, you jump on it.
Uh-huh.
You jump on it because it can go somewhere. So I was like, you said liberated.
And
We're going to-
you went with it, but
Exactly.
I was left behind.
You gotta watch. You gotta follow. It's quick.
Yes, so we had our first mass today with people, and it's funny. I feel like I've kind of forgotten how to do that. It's
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, what do I do here? Because I usually gesture for people to stand if they're not standing, for that. Because it used to be back in the day. You might not even remember this, but you said the prayer sitting down right before the prayer before communion or the prayer of the gifts. Yeah,
Yeah.
pray, brothers and sisters, that my sacrifice and yours may be acceptable to God, the my Father. May the Lord accept the sacrifice. And then you stood after that.
Oh, okay. You see, in seminary, when there was one really great priest, love the guy. He was very pedantic, and
Right up your aisle, huh?
yeah, he would require all the seminarians to sit until the priest says, "Pray, brethren, that my sacrifice and yours may be acceptable to God, the Almighty Father," and then we could stand.
Right.
And then you said the prayer.
Yep.
Because apparently that's how it's situated in the the general instruction of the Roman Missal. I find that a little pedantic, but because then you gotta wait, everybody's getting up and.
Yeah.
So-
I'm just working on maybe just the coloring a little bit more here. Yes, I think that is the way. Yes, that it's kind of supposed to be done or whatever, but that seems a little bit awkward. So anyway, I usually gesture for people, and I got in that habit because people forgot that they were supposed to stand.
Yeah.
So anyway, so just oh yeah, let's stand now. But yes, I am so glad that we have made the decision to start with daily mass and not weekend mass. I know that some churches are kind of waiting this week and getting their ducks in a row and getting ready to get started for the weekend masses, but we made some mistakes this morning. So it wasn't as smooth as it was. I thought it might be some rough things, but for instance, we forgot to set out a little stand for the hand sanitizer because we're supposed to have that ready just in case we make contact with the hand. We need to put the ciborium down. We probably should have a corporal on that little table too when we put the hose down.
Good idea. I didn't consider that. Okay.
So just kind of those things and having the hand sanitizer ready. So I'm glad that we kind of had a, if you will, test run. It was a real mass, of course, but it was not a Sunday mass with more than the regular daily mass crowd there. So it's good to kind of get some of these kinks worked out before we begin this weekend with our Sunday masses, which we are doing first communions. So we'll see how that goes. Again, I think it's a good chance also for us to kind of get all the kinks worked out and to go from there. So if you watched mass, and some of you were at mass, so I hope that it was hope it seemed fairly smooth for you. And we've got some other things that we want to improve and fix, and so
we'll be doing a lot of things in order to make sure the Blessed Sacrament, or I guess it would be the offerings, are covered throughout most of the liturgy. We will have to uncover them at one point or another, but we'll try to make sure that they're fully covered. I'll be covering my chalice more frequently than we have in the past. We'll be covering more objects. I was talking to Deacon Steve this morning. He called Jim Hill, and Jim Hill is going to make us a...
whatever he's going to make it, of course.
Jim Hill's going to make us a new tray. That way we can put all the Ciboria on one tray. Because right now we can almost hit them all, but they're right on top of each other and it doesn't work really well. So we're going to have a whole tray that all the Ciboria can fit on. So that when we have many people, we can just bring the Ciboria right onto the altar, already covered, consecrate, and then when we go to distribute, we don't have to distribute putting our hands all over the Blessed Sacrament. And
Right.
slowly doing little things like that. So
Yeah, so we've normally at Good Shepherd have used that big bowl or whatever, and so we're not going to do that at least during pandemic time, and maybe we just won't go back to that either. I mean, I like the imagery of one loaf, kind of, or one coming from one source to others, but it does require a lot of handling.
it's always kind of grossed me out. I'll be honest. Putting your hands all
yeah.
over it and
That's true. So there's probably a better system anyway. So we might just keep the system in post-pandemic time, and we'll do something else with that big bowl.
Right.
So so yeah, just those kind of changes. We're trying to figure all those kinds of things out. So
how tight is the 45-minute rule? So the 45-minute rule is for the Mass, and so we didn't actually go over for the Mass itself.
I don't think so.
No,
I mean,
not at all. Now, we may have been filming longer than that, but I mean,
right. I try to start filming 5 to 10 minutes before we are actually going.
right.
And because I watched the clock when I came back, and it was 9:20, and we'd already been outside talking to people a little bit for 5-10 minutes.
And
so
we started late today.
started a little late. So I think we were.
I'd have to double check, but I mean, I would be really surprised if that Mass was 45 minutes long.
Yeah, I would too.
The Mass itself is what we have to follow.
Right.
For that 45-minute rule.
And it's probably saying 45 minutes because of those other times that people are coming into the church and whatever. So they probably want the Mass itself to be 45 minutes.
It would be utterly impossible. If they meant people enter and exit within 45 minutes, it'd be utterly impossible.
Yeah, we can't. We couldn't do that.
Yeah.
So that's how I am understanding it.
Yeah.
At 45 minutes for the Mass itself. So
Right.
from beginning to end, it was less than 45
There is
minutes.
a rule when you interpret law, which is law has to be interpreted reasonably. So somebody might be able to interpret, that we have to have people in and out within 45 minutes. But I would argue that's an unreasonable interpretation of the law because it could not even work.
Right.
We could not get people in and out in 45 minutes.
Right.
So
And certainly not for a Sunday Mass.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No problem. No. We're actually kind of hashing that out as we're talking about it because we haven't considered that. But no, it's 45 minutes for the Mass, and then you're going to have people who will linger afterwards. We're trying to discourage it, but there's going to be reasons for it that are totally justified. And
Again, so I would presume that they're trying to think about an hour in the space, and so probably that 15 minutes has been kind of worked into people coming in and out. I would presume that that's kind of the thought of you don't want to be in the same space for more than an hour. So then the Mass needs to be 45 minutes.
Right.
I think that's how I would probably interpret that, but
We're doing our best. We'll see.
yeah. So, yeah. So that is that. What else are you doing? What are you keeping yourself busy with? What are you doing interesting? We discovered a new show that you found also.
Yeah. This is a new show. It's on Apple TV Plus, which I gave away for free for a year. So I got it because I have bought an Apple product in the last year, and so they gave it away free for me. So it's on there. It's called Defending Jacob. It's very exciting. I'm really enjoying it.
It stars Captain America.
It does indeed. What is his name? Chris Evans.
I think so.
Yeah, Chris Evans.
He's not actually Captain
So
America.
it's got a very fascinating premise. There's a father who's a district attorney, and he has to defend his son, who has been accused of murder, and murdering one of his classmates. So that's the whole premise of the show. I'm not giving anything away. That's
Right.
I mean, it's called Defending Jacob. So hopefully that wasn't a spoiler. But it's really fascinating because I'm finding a personality study more than even a crime thriller. It is a crime thriller in some ways, but you're watching each individual person, how they're processing it. You're watching how the boy's processing it. You're watching how the father's processing it, the mother, and how the community as a whole is processing it, how people turn on them in a certain way when the accusation's first made. And it's really fascinating, I think.
Okay. I wouldn't call it a thriller. I'd call it a drama, a crime drama maybe, but I'm not sure if I'd call it a thriller. So
Right. Well, it's definitely a crime drama. Just read the book.
oh, there's a book. Okay.
Yeah, so I've heard now they haven't released all the episodes of it, so I don't know this, but I've heard the ending of the movie, the series, is different than the ending of the book.
No.
So
I'd never heard of it at all, so so
we're 2 episodes in.
Yeah.
And there's 8, so we'll tell you once we finish it whether we really like it or not.
But so yeah, we started that I don't know last week, Wednesday or something like that, Thursday. I don't remember when it was when we started, but yeah, we're a couple episodes in. So yeah, sometimes we watch a show or something at night, and we've been watching Foyle's War, but also, as we've been talking about, but sometimes Foyle's War, it's a little too long by the time we're getting started. So Defending Jacob is a normal TV series, about 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So that's pretty interesting. Has anyone subscribed to PureFlix?
Never heard of it.
I think that PureFlix, I think it is it offers edited movies for like Christians, so it like takes out all bad language and all bad scenes. I mean, I like the idea. I mean, it's basically PureFlix is basically doing what television used to do to movies 20 years ago, I think, mostly. Because yeah, sometimes you have some movies that are
perfectly fine, except for like one scene.
It's like, yeah.
And
then it's like, if I want to recommend that movie, I always have to say, well, there's an asterisk. Well, there's this one scene. So I think that's what PureFlix is. Like we used to, back in the day, maybe many of you remember this, you recorded movies off the television on your VCR or whatever, and you had that tape. We had lots of tapes that we taped off of television for years, and lots of people did that.
Right.
Like, for instance, we recorded the movie Airplane off of the television.
Oh.
There were a whole bunch of scenes that
There's a lot of naughty scenes in Airplane.
I didn't know existed. I rented it several years later. I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, I remember the movie that happened to me with. ABC Family always edits their movies very well because ABC Family. So I saw Coming to America with Eddie Murphy as a kid a million times. A million times. Never knew there was anything naughty about it. And then I saw we didn't rent it, or we had a DVD of it with some of my friends a few years back, and we were like, "Whoo!
Yeah.
Hello there, buddy."
Yes, there's some not safe for families stuff in there. So yeah, we've been watching that.
It's so frustrating to me when a director who is directing a perfectly fine movie that has there's no necessity for any inappropriate scenes. Like, if you're dealing with real content, I understand that there has to be sometimes some element that might be a little edgier or something like that. But when they just add in these extra scenes, it's very sad.
Yeah.
One of my favorite directors is Wes Anderson. I love his films.
Right.
But he often just puts like one or two scenes in there that just totally cross the line, and you're like, it was not necessary. It didn't help the plot. It didn't help flesh out the character at all. You were just being edgy for no reason.
Right. What's the name of that movie? What is that Stephen King's prison movie? Is it Stephen King? No. The prison... Shawshank Redemption. Oh. Shawshank Redemption is a classic example that has a lot of bad language, if I remember from the original movie. Well, they're in prison, so it makes sense, and it makes sense with the writing and everything. But it's a great movie, but I couldn't show it to my parents because they would say, we can't watch that. But it was on television, and we recorded it, and my mom still might have that version because that's the only version that they want to watch. They would want to watch, so they recorded that version. So I don't know I think that's what PureFlix is. And so yes, it's a great... Shawshank Redemption is a great movie, but it's got some language problems. I haven't seen it for several years. In fact, I think the only time I've ever seen it recently is when it happens to be on television. I'm like, oh, I should watch a little bit about that, and then I'm stuck, and I can't turn it off because it's so good. But yeah, that was, if I recall, I think it was Shawshank Redemption, Forrest Gump, and Pulp Fiction. I think we're all up for Best Picture
in the same year.
If I recall.
I thought Shawshank Redemption kind of flopped at first.
It did. Oh. Well, that's when because it was the debate back in the day. If I recall, if I'm getting my history right, that it was either Forrest Gump or Pulp Fiction. So were you team Gump or team Pulp?
Yeah.
And then I was like, so which? I was asking somebody, what do you think should win the Best Picture? And he said Shawshank Redemption. I'm like, Shawshank Redemption? What? But yes, out of those three, nowadays I would say hands down, I would say that's the best picture of those three.
Probably of those three.
Yeah.
No, it's hard to say. Pulp Fiction is a classic. Quentin Tarantino, it's a little, it is edgy. It's Quentin. And then, Forrest Gump has had a huge societal impact. I am always amused by history classes that use Forrest Gump as a movie that they watch throughout to show modern American history because he constantly changes it.
That's right. It's true. That's true.
It's not actually true.
Right. Right. But but that's in the background, like when he's greeting whatever president he's greeting.
I'm not a big fan of Tarantino either. I have a good friend who's a really big fan of Tarantino. So I respect his ability, but I don't really enjoy his movies.
Yeah, I am the same way.
Very interesting characters always, but
I'm not sure if I've seen much more than Pulp Fiction, actually.
So one of my closest friends really wanted me to watch Kill Bill
Okay.
a few years ago.
I don't think I ever saw it.
Was that?
I don't think I ever saw it.
Yeah, I don't. So I said, okay, fine, I'll watch it with you. So we're sitting there watching, and he is laughing the whole movie because anytime she goes to slash the people or something like that, I'm like flinching because I can't handle it. And so he said, I could tell every time when something bad was going to happen because Nicholas would move back in his seat and get ready to flinch.
Yeah.
So I can't handle movies like that.
That's not really my style either. But yeah, so I think those were the 3 movies. If someone wants to, I mean, there were obviously 5 that were nominated, and so there are probably 2 other quality movies there. But those 3 I remember was the front runners. If I'm recalling my history correct, it was Forrest Gump versus Pulp Fiction, and Shawshank Redemption was seen as a distant 3rd, maybe, or even 5th. Whatever year that was, that would have been 1994, I think. Because I remember I watched it at the student. I think both of those at the student union at KU because I used to have cheap movies there. It was pretty cool. Remember when we used to go to movie theaters? Remember that?
Yeah.
Those were the days. Tiny Gas just over here on the tube says that she got here a few minutes ago. How many people attended Mass? I think we had 37.
Right about,
Deacon
yeah.
Steve said we had 37. So pretty good for day of the Mass. And I don't know what our normal numbers are, but we were all spread out throughout the church. I did, if it went correct, I did do a pan of the church at the beginning of the Mass. If you want to see how many people were there, I warned people. I said, if you don't want to be on film, cover your face. But you can see who was there. And then, let's see here. And then Lori Lang mentioned, what does God's only begotten Son mean?
Would you like to answer that?
No, I'll turn it over to the theologian over here.
Oh, I don't know about that. Well, only begotten Son is a theological term that means that Jesus Christ, who is the second person of the Holy Trinity, is the only one who shares the substance of the Father.
Okay.
So that means that we as human beings, imagine we've got the substance of humanity. I am a human being. I've got all the human being parts. I've got a soul, I've got a body, I've got an intellect, I've got a will. And when we look at all those things together, we say the substance of the human person is to be all those things, to have those aspects. And when we are referring to the second person of the Holy Trinity, referring to the fact that God has had an image in his mind. God the Father had an image in his mind. And that image is a perfect reflection of who he is. So if you imagine, when you go to think about something, let's say you think about a tree, a willow tree. It's, sinking down. Everybody think of the word willow tree. When you think of the word willow tree, you see an image in your mind, right?
Yes.
When you think of the word hippopotamus, what do you see in your mind?
A long-necked orange.
That's wrong. You see a big fat creature, right? We think by creating phantasms in our mind. Phantasms are the image that we see in our mind. So we think by having phantasms. You can't think of something without imagining it. That's just, as human beings, we think through that way.
Uh-huh.
If you try to imagine math, what do you see? You see the math numbers. You might not see it completely clearly, but that's what we do. So God thinks of the image of his Son, but his thought is so much more perfect than a human being. When we think of a willow tree, we don't make a willow tree come into our mind. We think of the image of what a willow tree is. But God's thoughts are so perfect that he brings in the image of himself that he has is his Son. And this image is truly alive. It shares his substance. And so when we say he's only begotten, it's the only begotten Son, the only image of the Father that the Father is constantly thinking. and that's the second person of the Holy Trinity.
Okay.
And then the Father loves that image purely, and the Son loves his image of the Father perfectly, and the love between the two is the Holy Spirit.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this constant eternal process going on in God. There's this constant eternal reality that God the Father is constantly thinking the image of his Son, and the Son is constantly loving the Father, and they're loving each other, and that is the Trinity. So we say he's only begotten because it's the only image put forward by God of himself, who is the second person of the Holy Trinity. Does
Very
that make
good.
sense?
Kind of.
Kind
So
of.
you get in Trinitarian theology. Well, it seems like that leans right into. I'm gonna put you on the spot here.
Mm-hmm.
Are you ready for
My favorite heresy?
my favorite heresy?
Sure.
My favorite heresy.
Which
It's our
Trini-
favorite.
Which Trinitarian heresy should we go into? There's a lot of them.
Pick your favorite one.
I don't know.
My favorite heresy, brought to you by
Well,
Father
the most
Ashmore.
simple one is Arianism.
Okay.
That is the most simple Trinitarian heresy. Arianism teaches that God the Son is not eternal. That God the Son, the second person of the Holy Trinity, Jesus Christ, is not eternal with God. He is the greatest creation of God. So that's why we don't say the only created Son of God. We say
Right.
the only begotten Son of God, which
Which is
means
not
that
true.
there's an eternal process of birth in a certain way. That's the language that's used there. We're not actually saying God's giving birth, but that's the language we use there. That there's this constant process of Him bringing forth the Son in God. But Arianism says that God the Son is the highest creation of all that has been created. And so when Jesus Christ came, it wasn't really God coming. It was this highest creation of God.
Right.
Now, this may seem like an odd thing for us to have talked about. Of course, Jesus Christ is the Son of God. We obviously realize that. But this controversy, this heresy, actually divided the church back in the 3rd and 4th century, and we had a whole church council called the Council of Nicaea in 325, I believe.
Nicaea. That seems to ring a bell.
Exactly. So we had a whole church council that defined the fact that Arianism is false, and we believe that Jesus Christ is the Son of God, the only begotten Son of God. And to this day, we still say the creed that came forth from that every Mass, called the Niceno-Constantinopolitan Creed, because it's the Nicene Creed, the creed that came from the Council of Nicaea, along with the Council of Constantinople, which added some theology about the Holy Spirit as part of it.
I see. Yep.
So if you ever think, why do we go on and on and on in the Nicene Creed? Because we say, only begotten Son, God from God, light from light, true God from true God, begotten, not made, consubstantial with the Father. Consubstantial with the Father. Is there another one?
I've lost.
Consubstantial with the Father. We say all those because they're defining who the second person of the Holy Trinity is, in contradiction to Arianism.
Because didn't Arius say those things, that he was not God, that he was not he was not the light? I mean, it wasn't almost like all those things are a rebuttal of Arius thought.
Everyone is a subtle rebuttal of some of the heresies that were active during those days, especially Arianism. But why do we say the term consubstantial?
But let me just back.
ahead.
So it'd be kind of like if someone might, and I'm not going to get political. I'm going to get political, but I'm not taking sides. If someone says "Make America Great" or whatever, that means something.
Yeah.
Right. But or make America Great Again.
Yeah.
That's the or and if someone says in response like America was never great or something, or make America great without the again, it's heard as a direct rebuttal to the Trump slogan, President Trump's slogan of "Make America Great Again," right? So that I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying that I think it's helpful for us to then when we say the creed is to think God from God, light from light, true God from true God, consubstantial with the Father. Through Him all things were made. That we hear all of those as like anti-Arian or a response to Arian slogans that Arius was saying, and we are defending the truth of who Jesus Christ is. Again, I'm not taking any sides politically. I'm just trying to bring a modern example of how there's a slogan out there, and then people have kind of the anti-slogan to respond to that. The creed, in some ways, that piece is like the response to what Arius was saying.
Exactly. And when we retranslated the Mass back in 2011,
Yep.
we introduced several words there, which are theologically very deep words, and they can be a little off-putting to people at times because they're not words we normally use.
Like consubstantial.
Consubstantial. That is a weird word.
Weird word.
Because it only exists when you're translating from the Latin. You would never say with anybody, "Oh yes, I was speaking to the second person of the Trinity who is consubstantial with the Father." You know,
Right.
good old.
We write weird
consubstantialism.
words. That could be a tongue twister. We
write weird words.
we write weird words. We write weird words.
But consubstantial comes from the Greek, which was homoousios,
Right.
and this was the only word. What's that? Okay.
Carry on.
This is the only word that the Arians could not defend.
Okay.
Anytime that they used another word to describe who the Son of God was, the Arians had a subtle way to talk around that and say, "Oh yes. Homoiousios was one option they were going to do.
Right.
Homoiousios means
That's what I was
like
talking
in
about.
being with the Father. Yeah, like in being with the Father. That sounds right. One in being with the Father, like in being with the Father. But the Arians had a way of arguing with that term, homoiousios. The Arians had another way of arguing with the other terms. Homoousios was the only word, which means one in being with the Father, that the Arians could not argue against. It was the only word that kind of clinched them, in the theological debates. And so we kept homoousios. It got translated into consubstantialum in the Latin, and we say consubstantial today, in contradiction to the Arians. And now this all may sound like, oh, this is all historical. The Arians were destroying the world. They were destroying the church from within. There was one point that more of the church was Arian than it was Catholic, than truly believing in the true faith. Now, this means that there were more Arian bishops in the world than there were Catholic bishops. Eventually, that got silenced and suppressed. But that's why our creed looks the way it does.
Uh-huh.
It's complicated. It's theologically dense. It uses these historical terms. But these are the terms that our forefathers died for.
Right.
So we got to protect them.
Right.
It's really easy to think, oh, we need to update this language. And if you ever try to update language without understanding why the language was written in the way it was in the first place, you'll never be able to update it well, or you're going to be betraying the original language.
Right. Words have meaning.
Words have meaning, yeah. Words mean things.
Words mean things. Okay.
As
Is
you'll
that
hear me say
your
something.
phrase? Words mean things or words have meaning? What do you say?
Words have meaning, yeah.
Words have meaning. So I say my first pandemic. You say words have meaning. We could have a coffee drinking game for the times.
Yeah, exactly.
Or ding, ding, ding. We could play bingo if we say those words. Yes. So, yeah, it's good. Good stuff there. Yes. What you were saying there also just made me think of people died for these things. I mean, that was part of the thing, I think, with the people get upset with, people are getting all upset with the kneeling during the national anthem or whatever and saying, hey, veterans died for our country, and it seems like, you're doing this kind of thing. It's kind of maybe kind of a similar kind of response that people had of disrespecting and again, I'm not taking sides. I'm just saying, I'm just trying to put this kind of modern thing of people died for these things. Let's consider what's going on here or whatever. Mm-hmm. So whether you kneel or don't kneel or whatever, that's a different debate. But that argument that people died for this is not something you just throw around, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
right. Mm-hmm.
Good. And it's bizarre to think of people, fighting so much about theological terms, especially when we kind of live in an age where it's like, let's all get along and it's okay and words don't mean anything. And well, they do have meaning, and they have major consequences if we don't properly understand what they are saying.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So Debbie was asking about, yes, we are looking for we are looking for a couple positions here, and they are going pretty well. So my HR guy isn't here, so I don't want to say too much about, but the search goes on, and so we are making progress, hopefully. So I don't want to say much more about that on camera, but so because then I get in trouble. Now, if Deacon Steve were here, he could probably say more. He's coming in any moment now, but anyway, so it's going along, and we hope to have those positions filled soon. So, all right. I think I don't see any other questions. I hope I didn't miss any questions here. Again, sorry that we were late, and sorry that our camera is a subpar, but hopefully we'll get it fixed. I think sometimes if I just restart my computer, that'll fix it, and so that'll be what I do next. But we'd already lost the stream once, so we didn't want to lose it again because we'd have to stop the stream to do that. So. So very good. So thanks so much for joining us here for today's fireside chat. We didn't exactly have the ash cam on today, but we had the ash cam on all day. So so thanks again for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. We have our rosary at noon, and maybe we'll see you then. So thanks so much for tuning in.
Thank you very much. God bless you all.